creation is not on lockdown. That's good news this morning. The flowers are blooming, the trees are budding, the birds are singing. Springtime is everywhere around us. And it's a good reminder, friends, that God's faithfulness sustains the world. And so even in the midst of all of our uncertainty and all of our confusion and all the current unrest and unsettledness that we have, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And the world continues to go on in faithfulness to God's covenant promises. Now, here's some pastoral perspective I want to give you today. I was thinking about this yesterday as I was making phone calls and talking to some people. Here's the reality. We're all experiencing the same thing, but we're all experiencing it differently. So we're living in the same moment, but our experience of this moment is radically different. Some people are owning businesses, and their business is thriving right now. They're really busy. Other people, their business is collapsing. Some people are introverts and they're loving sort of isolation and sort of the disconnection from people. Other people are really suffering in the midst of that disconnection. There's some of us who haven't had COVID-19 affect anyone we know, really, and there's others of us who have had family members die already from COVID-19. So as we try to live in community together, as we try to really be the church in this moment, just remember, everyone around you is experiencing the same moment, but their experience of it might be radically different from yours. And so as we think about what it means for us to love one another, we have to keep that in mind, that our experience of the coronavirus and all the things associated with it is very different from person to person and from situation to situation. What I'm experiencing as a pastor and sort of feeling out there is sort of a lot of generalized fear and worry about the prospect of returning to normal. You've heard more and more in the news, states are trying to figure out how are we going to reopen, and businesses are making plans to reopen. The talk right now is all about sort of slowly, gradually moving toward reopening. And what I sense around that is a lot of fear and uncertainty. Is that a good idea? How should I respond to that? When is it safe for me to sort of go back out in normal rhythms? There's a lot of us that just feel all kinds of uncertainty around that. And so what I want to do in this moment is I want to bring you back to what got us here in the first place. What was the reason that we embraced social distancing, that we shut down a lot of businesses, that we put a lot of caps on gathering? What was behind all that? Today's Omaha World Herald reminds us, in fact, it says, Ricketts keeps focus on hospital capacity. Yesterday in the governor's press conference, he mentioned, hey, this is what it's always been about, is hospital capacity. What caused us in the first place to sort of shut down society was the concern that if this virus grew too fast, it would overwhelm our capacity to care for everyone, and our hospitals would be overwhelmed. It seems now that we've beaten that risk, or at least we've minimized that risk, and so now our hospitals seem able, capacity-wise, to respond. And so that's why it's okay for us to move toward reopening. As we move toward reopening, here's what you need to remember. There are other underlying risks that still remain. So the risk of the hospital being overwhelmed does not remain. That's why it's okay for us to go back to normal in some ways. But the risk of you getting COVID-19 remains. The risk of there being various outbreaks of COVID-19 remains. The risk of you showing up at church whenever we can have church again, and there being someone in the room who maybe is a carrier of the virus, that risk remains. That's a risk we didn't even have to think about 6 months ago because it didn't exist. So part of what we need to do is to separate the existing and remaining risks that are sort of going to be on our minds from the initial risk that got us into this lockdown and sort of all this social isolation. The initial risk was hospitals are going to be overwhelmed. That risk seems to have been mitigated. But there are lots of other things we're going to have to continue to live with. And I've said that to you repeatedly in these daily briefings because I want you to reckon with that. I want you to reckon with the fact that I can't, as your pastor, promise you that gathering as a church is going to remove any possible risk to you of encountering the virus. Just like the person that owns a grocery store can't guarantee you that, no restaurant can guarantee you that, and no public health official can guarantee you that. So going back toward normal means we're acknowledging, okay, the really scary risks have gone away, but man, a lot of risk still remains, and we're just going to have to walk into that together. I'm glad the governor is trying to keep our eyes on, hey, the reason we can talk about reopening society is because the hospital risk particularly has been abated. but I can't promise you that that means there's going to be no risk, and nor is anyone saying there won't be, okay? So let's keep that in mind, because I think that helps us sort of deal with, or at least name, some of the fear and worry that we feel, right? Some of that is related to real things that we still face, but we have to remember, hey, one of the things we faced has significantly changed, and that's good news for our society. So you're going to see our world stepping back toward gradual opening up, and again, I'm hopeful that'll mean some things for us as a church, but this Sunday, we'll be right here again in the parking lot. So you're going to come in this entrance to the church, drive around the building, receive your liturgy, drive into the parking lot, park your car, and we're going to do an FM parking lot service like we did last week. Again, if you're not able to join us, if you choose not to join us, if you joined us last week and your 1-year-old in the car seat for an hour just didn't work well, great. We'll put all the stuff online later on Sunday, as we have been doing, and actually the sort of family at home or roommate at home worship resources will be there early Sunday morning. It's just the sermon won't be uploaded until later in the day. All right, so you'll still be able to gather in your home and worship Jesus. You're welcome to gather here in the parking lot. We hope a lot of you will come here and worship Jesus. It was really fun last week to kind of be together in some meaningful way, and we'll do that again this week using the FM radio dial. So I'll see you then. This is your last daily briefing for this week, so I'll talk to you on Sunday, and I'll see you again next week for more updates.